Alright, so we'll just start here. So just to give a recap of what we're talking before, I could give my own recap, but I could also give the Fidik Rebbe's recap. So the Nefesh Bahamis exists in different ways by different people. Some people have a weaker Nefesh Bahamis, some people have a stronger Nefesh Bahamis, and the Nefesh Bahamis is going to chase everything that it can and try to indulge in everything. The person should try to, limit what their Nefesh Bahamis, gets, because the more that they give the Nefesh Bahamis, the stronger it gets, until the point where the Sitra Achara could use the Nefesh Bahamis to get a person to do even Averes. And indulging in even permitted pleasures can cause that a person will have a lack of fear of God. And the Sitra Achara will also try to convince a person that through his doing the Avera, he doesn't become disconnected from godliness in any way. And these things cause a person to sin.
Is there ever a time where we do indulge with the Nefesh Bahamis?
Yeah, Shabbos. I was medayek from a different kitzur of the Fidik Rebbe, but Einik Shabbos, it's not that you're indulging in the type of the Nefesh Bahamis, but it actually says in Derech Kuntreis that you don't become grub from indulging in Tavis and Shabbos. I mean, indulging in Einik Shabbos. Now, to be clear, you could still be a behemoth while indulging in Einik Shabbos. The notion of just because it's a mitzvah, which means that by doing the mitzvah, your Nefesh Bahamis isn't going to become more empowered to doing things which aren't mitzvahs. But a person can eat food, look up at Shabbos, and they can have it in mind that they're doing it for the sake of the Eibusher, etc., etc. Or a person could eat food on Shabbos and have the einik, and they could do it because this is really what they're interested in doing. Every day they eat like a chazer. Every day they eat like an ox. There's a famous story with the Baal Shem Tov that he once told the students to put their hands on their shoulders or something like that. They saw there was a chassid and he was eating cholent, and when they put their hands on the shoulders, they saw that there was an ox, a full ox, and there was a little shtinel on the head of the ox, and the ox was eating cholent. And Baal Shem Tov said because he's eating the cholent not because of the mitzvah of Einik Shabbos, but he's eating it because of his Nefesh Bahamis. His Nefesh Bahamis likes to indulge in food, and he's eating the cholent because this is what he wants to indulge in. So even though it's a mitzvah of Einik Shabbos, but that's why in spiritual worlds he's like he looks like an ox, because right now his Nefesh Bahamis is indulging. So it's important to make this. Also, if you make a lot of food for Shabbos, very often it's spilling in and spilling out. I know a lot of people that they make Erev Shabbos food. They decided there's a concept called like a bane or something like that. The people and to me it's ludicrous that you have a party on Erev Shabbos when it's like also to actually have a meal. But they're not necessarily having Mizernes. It's only steaks and whiskey and things like that. So maybe there's not a technical halachic violation. But then they're gouging themselves on steak and whiskey and cigars and whatever it is before and weed and whatever it is before Shabbos. These parties get very lit. But the point is that they could take in Shabbos early. Just daven mincha. If you have 10 people, or even if you don't have 10 people, daven mincha, make kiddush, and make this a Shabbos party with people. I don't know. It's a bane. They need to have it. It's Friday afternoon, and it's a little bit before Ben Hashmashis, because obviously you can't do it on Ben Hashmashis. I'm sure that it goes into Ben Hashmashis, but this is like a minute people have, and I'm sure that there's a lot of intention that there should be something to do with Kavod Shabbos. Maybe not. I don't know. Hashem knows what's in people's hearts. But ultimately, something like that could definitely make a person grub, and they can tell themselves they're doing it with Kavod Shabbos, even though it's not actually on Shabbos. So I know in my house, not that this is a bane, but in my house, my mother needs to make 2 kugels, because one kugel, everyone takes a piece of kugel before Shabbos to taste the kugel, and ultimately the kugel ends up being gone by the time the Shabbos comes around. So you need to have the kugel for Erev Shabbos, and you need to have a kugel for Shabbos. Same recipe, same batch. If anything, the Shabbos one is a little smaller. Everyone already ate kugel. You don't really need the kugel. So, but anyhow, yeah. So that's how it is. So it is possible to have enjoyment. And by the way, mitzvahs in general should be giving enjoyment. Like learning Torah, for example, should be giving enjoyment. That's part of the mitzvah of learning Torah. It can be argued is the enjoyment that you get from.
But you're not using your behemoth.
Well, it's still an indulgence. It's still a pleasure. The nefesh of the kiss could have a pleasure, and the nefesh of Hamas could have a pleasure right alongside it. Ultimately, one of the big goals of character refinement, whatever it is to be able to take your nefesh of Hamas and to be able to turn it around, to show it what a godly pleasure could be, and ultimately have that the nefesh of Hamas itself runs towards a godly pleasure. So even though it's like it's terrorism indulging, you could have enjoyment from that. There's a lot of mitzvahs that part of that the mitzvah very much could give enjoyment. Simchas Yom Tov, I would argue, is pretty much a mitzvah of enjoyment. Making your wife happy for the first year of marriage, which is a mitzvah to say Deiraisa, is a mitzvah which revolves around enjoyment. And there's a lot of mitzvahs that even though they don't necessarily particularly revolve around enjoyment, but joy isn't necessarily enjoyment. There's a distinction, but still it's closely enough related that I can put them in the same category. But in general, in a lot of mitzvahs, you need to have enjoyment. Some mitzvahs, there's actually a need for pain. There has a whole sikha and Parshas Vayera explaining why Hashem didn't just make Avraham Avinu, not feel ill. He said part of the mitzvah is the feeling is feeling the pain. It's not that a person won't be Yitzhak. No, it is a part of the mitzvah. But in general, in mitzvahs, part of the mitzvah is to have enjoyment. So, yeah, you can have enjoyment from having mitzvahs. And yeah, let's dive in. The MS calls them, which will say Yitzer Shemateu Machasa al MS Hashem Yishmeinu Mizah. Just want to make sure we talk. That this is talk that we're up to.
Discourse 3, chapter 2.
No, I think we did this one already. Could be wrong.
Where are you holding? What page?
No, because I think we did this parak. Because I remember we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did this one. Let's see if we did the next one. I might have prepared it wrong. Anyhow. Yeah, we also did the first one. We were up to Gimel, Parak Base. So let's do the kisser from before that. Sorry about that. I was thinking it looks too familiar. So anyhow, so the kisser for that is in holiness in Alikus. In holiness in Alikus, the godly force is enclosed in the inner aspect of the thing, and it shines in a revealed way. As we said, the example of a father that teaches his son. I don't know if it's coming back. I also thought that we're up to the other space, but like when a father learns with the son, he connects to him, and Sitra Achara on the other side, the thing that's getting chayas from Sitra Achara from the other side gets his chayas from Hashem in a way that's removed and distant. And it's like someone that throws over their shoulder because they're not interested in even looking at the person they're giving to. And the chayas that's inside of the impure thing it's like it's in galus, like a person that's tied up in a sack, that the person can't control the medium that they're in. Like the soul goes into the body, and the body is able to move around. The soul is able to express itself through the body, but the chayas that's inside of something that is klipa or something that's from Sitra Achara, the chayas is tied up in a sack that it can't control the medium that it's in. And this is similar to the Inyan of Gugulim, Rahman al-Salam. Okay, so that was the one that we were up to, and now we can start base. I will say I'm blind diving into this because kind of a mistake, but anyhow, so the reason why the light of Kedusha isn't able to shine into things that have that are from the other side is because they're not vessels for godliness. Things that are on the side of Kedusha, that they're essentially vessels for godliness. And the reason why they're essentially vessels for godliness is because the godly light is able to shine in them in a revealed way. And as we explained in the mashal above, that the soul of a human, it gets invested in a human, and this is intentional. This is daka. Because the body is a vessel that it's able to receive the soul. This is a human soul. So therefore, two things essentially happen. The light of the soul is able to shine into it in a revealed way. And because it's able to be revealed over there, the body is at that point nullified to the soul. Until the point that it's able to, until the point that it's able to be literally enclosed in the body, until the point that the body is literally sustained, kept alive from the chayas of the soul. The fish any mukhla kabel source nefesh adam lachain in a nefesh miskala sham mela in a behema betela canal. And in the body of an animal, if the human soul goes into the body of an animal, like in a gilgal, the soul is not able to be revealed there properly, and therefore the body of the animal is not nullified to the soul, and the soul isn't able to move, etc. To give a kind of example to this, if you try to apply DC current to something that takes AC current, it just wouldn't work. The machine isn't designed for the kind of chayas that you're trying to put into it. Now, AC current is where the conscious is not able to, feel discomfort, but it's also, you could say, it's like wearing. Like we said, the marshal of the sack. If a person just tries to wear clothes, then if the clothes are well fitting, then the clothes will actually suit the person. They'll help them out. They'll be able to aid them in making their way through the world. If the clothes are too big, then they'll end up tripping over themselves because it's not a proper vessel for the person. And this marshal just extends. So with this we could also understand that on the side of godliness, that the kelim are the vessels are vessels for godliness. Therefore, the light of godliness is able to shine them in a revealed way. Because of this, they're also nullified to godliness, because the soul and the body isn't the thing we're after. We're after how things work with godly expression. So, and through this, they're nullified to godliness, and the godly light is able to shine in them, and it's able to become unified with them. But on the other side, that they are essentially not kelim for, as in their essence, they are not kelim for godliness. That is to say, because of their essential source and the way that they were created, and that they do not have nullification and they do not have submission to the godly light, to the godly light. As it's written in another place. Then see what it says in Terer, the Sophies and Parshas Bereshis, in the drasha which starts to understand the concept of brachas. And therefore, the godly light is not able to be revealed in them, and rather it's in a state of exile in them. And because of this, the other side of the Sitra Achara is not nullified to godliness. The Adrabah, and even more so. It raises itself like an eagle, and it says, I am the only thing. It's me, and there's nothing else. And as it says, the river is mine, and I have created it. Not only did we discuss this in Basi Lagani and Tashon Chaf Gimel, but it was actually last week's Haftarah. Parah says that I created the river, and it's my river, and I created it. The notion of Klippa being able to deny the existence of godliness. And therefore, Amar Rabbi Sinu Zechrein L'Racha, like Chachamim say, Shegasus Ruach Shkula Kavod Zara, that haughtiness is considered equal to Avodah Zara, literally. Ki ikar v'sheiresh Avodah Zara hu ma shenechshav l'davar b'fnei atzmai nifrod mikdushas shel makom v'lo kfir b'Hashem l'gamrei, because the main part of what Avodah Zara is and a person thinks that he's something unto himself, which is separate from the holiness of Hashem, and not complete kfira in Hashem. Because the Gemara, as it says in the Gemara, they call Hashem the God of gods. Just to give a little bit of explanation, also because it's a very short paragraph, and we still have 10 minutes, so we can give some explanation. So, originally, how did Avodah Zara start? I actually had a conversation about this once. I have a friend who's Finnish, doctor of mathematics, and met him in Morristown. You meet a lot of interesting people in Morristown. And we corresponded over email a little bit about this, about where does Avodah Zarah come from. If Hashem created the world 6 days, rested on the seventh, created Adam. Adam saw Hashem, he spoke to him, and I would imagine that this would be a pretty, essential thing to pass on to your kids. That, there's an Abisher, and but at what point did it go sour? So actually the Rambam tells us at the beginning of Kuntreis Umayan, quoting based on the Drashim, etc., that the mistake started with Enosh. And he said, not necessarily that he's going to start serving idols or anything like that. He said, Hashem runs the world, but Hashem also made the sun, and the sun gives us chayas, and the sun gives us energy, and it gives us life and sustenance, and then this is, by the way, true in a literal sense. I would imagine that maybe 300 years ago they look at him and they say, what an idiot that he thinks that he's giving, things like that. Maybe it gives a warmth to that. What more does it give? No, the sun. People knew obviously through that the sun is what gives life through to plants and whatnot. But we know this in a literal sense. We know all of the processes about how the sun, a ball of hydrogen and helium burning millions of miles away, is able to give photosynthesis. It's able to send light into photosynthesis. And we know all of the details. The sun, mamish, gives nashpa literally to everything on Earth. There's other planets, other celestial bodies like the moon that also supposedly give somehow. I don't know exactly how they give sustenance yet, but this is what it says. That's what's written. I trust it. So, but he said the sun and the moon, they help give sustenance. And he said we would be remiss if we wouldn't thank the sun and the moon, because they're also servants of Hashem and they're giving us chayas. And he said it would be like if you have a dining experience. You go to a restaurant and there's a waiter and there's a chef. You don't meet the chef. You only meet the waiter. Now you could say compliments to the chef. You pass that on through the waiter, but you also thank the waiter for the meal. And actually, you do more talking to the waiter than you do the chef, because the waiter is the one that you're dealing with directly. It's obviously you need to say compliments to the chef for the delicious meal, but all of the talking happens through the waiter, and all of the interaction happens with the waiter, and a lot of the thanks also goes to the waiter, because he's the one that you're seeing face to face. And with this notion, he wasn't denying godliness per se. He was just saying there's something else, and I need to thank you. Now, in reality, a more apt example would be when you have a woodworker and he uses a saw. You don't think the saw. There's no reason to think the saw. The saw is an inanimate object. It does nothing. Now, even though the sun actually has, some level of consciousness, some level of, the sun's malach, or whatever the concept is, but the sun is, maybe you could say think the sun or whatever it is. The sun is more than that. Hashem gave, in the Chassidus it says how Hashem gave the sun a kind of chayas, that it's a kind of stepping off point where the sun does appear at least to act as an independent entity. The saw, it's very obvious. You look at the guy holding the saw. The saw doesn't do anything unless the guy's arm moves. So the saw is an inanimate object. You don't know that with the sun necessarily. The sun seems to move around on its own. The sun is constantly bowing to the west towards the Shekhinah. But you're not. So the point is that you could have two separate. You could be deluded into thinking there's two separate entities, and Avodah Zarah is not denying the existence of Hashem per se, but rather saying that there's another entity. So the Rebbe Sham says this is why the Chachamim said that haughtiness is literally like Avodah Zarah, because in order for this person to serve Avodah Zarah, they need to taka say that there's an entity that exists in the world, and they're worshiping the entity. They need to either bow. There's a few Avedas that bowing, pouring wine, checking. There's a few Avedas that a person could do that automatically makes them chayav for certain Avodah Zarah. There's some Avodah Zarahs that have a particular kind of way of serving them. There's a kind of Avodah Zarah called markulis. They would throw stones to it, and that was their way of serving the Avodah Zarah. There was some more interesting Avodah Zarahs that I mentioned about how people would serve them. But it's not literally serving Avodah Zarah if a person is haughty, but it's essentially the same thing, because haughtiness is saying that I have my own existence, I have my own entity. If someone would worship me, I would be a separate entity. I would say, worship Hashem is so much greater than me. What do you mean? Hashem is the God, is the God of gods, as it says from the Gemara. Hashem is the King of all kings. He created everything. But ultimately, if a person says that they're haughty, then they're saying that they exist unto themselves, And if someone would worship them while they might be stupid, it wouldn't be that they're worshiping nothing. Not to get into too many halacha questions, but I had that halacha question. If a person says that they're serving something, but they're acknowledging that the thing that they're serving literally doesn't exist, and that they're completely making it up, but they're saying that they're serving it and they're doing one of the four avodas to it, are they chayav for serving it? Based on the Gemaras, it would seem not. It would seem that you knew that the person needs to be taking something that's in existence, and this is alluding to that in a sense. A person needs to have. I mean, if a person is haughty, then a person is making themselves to be another existence. So anyhow, so this is why the Klippa and Sitra Achara, they make themselves into quote unquote a separate entity. They're able to deny the existence of godliness in the world. When the Klippa and Sitra Achara, they then become, in a sense, separate. They become something new, and this is why they're denying godliness, and this is why they're. Is what I'm saying making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyhow, so el shagam heim machshivim atzmam liyesh v'davar b'fnei atzmai. So the Klippa and Sitra Achara consider themselves to be an entity. They consider themselves to be something unto themselves. And with this, they're able to separate themselves from the holiness of Hashem. After the fact that they're not nullified to Him. Because the upper kedusha, the kedusha of Hashem, doesn't rest on anything that isn't batal to Hashem. It only rests on things which are batal to Hashem. And that's why the Sitra Achara, the other side, is called the mountains of separation in the Zohar. Because they're considering themselves to be separate. They're considering themselves to be lofty, and they're considering themselves to be separate. Whereas the kfir b'achtusay ha'amitis t'chol kamei k'la chashiv v'vatul b'emes le'yisparach l'urseni ha'mechayes kolam ma'ava isam ha'me'ayim le'yishtamen. And this kfira in the and that this is kfira in Hashem's ultimate unity, because really everything is considered like nothing before Hashem, and everything is really truly nullified before Hashem, and to His will, which gives life force to everything, and it's able to create them from nothing to something constantly. Any questions? All right, so go for just the kitzur. Go for Adam. Hakavasei mizgevs punasei ukli the kabel tzuras nefesh. The kabel tzuras nefesh Adam. So the body of a person, what he's it seems like the Rebbe uses three lashonos, that what his mixture and another lashon of his mixture, and his properties are all a vessel to receive the form of the soul of a man. And therefore the body is nullified and drawn to the soul. The body of an animal is not prepared to receive the form of the soul of a man. So too it is with Kedusha, that things which are holy are a vessel to godliness, and godly light is able to shine on them in a revealed way. And on the other side, the Sitra Achara, they consider themselves to be in existence, and they deny the oneness of Hashem. Alright? Shkaya.
Thank you.